Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Cookbook Chronicles. Today, we are going to take a stroll through the heart of Mexico City's Polanco neighborhood. And there lies a restaurant that changed the course of modern Mexican cuisine, Quintonil. Since opening its doors in 2012, Jorge Vallejo and his team have redefined what it means to cook with soul, sustainability, and precision, rooted in tradition, but fearlessly contemporary. They now have 2 Michelin stars and are ranked number 3 on San Pellegrino's World 50 Best list. Today we're cooking their creamy green rice with poblano chile and a perfectly cooked egg from their 2016 cookbook, Quintonil. To start off making this amazing dish, we need to make a poblano chile water, or liquid if you will. And it starts with some brunoise onion, spinach, poblano or pasilla chilies. Poblanos might be hard to find where you're at, but you could substitute pasilla chilies. As long as they're fresh and green, it's perfect. You puree it, and then you're going to strain this twice. Once so that you get some of the foam off and a lot more of the liquid. And then I ran it through a skimmer, as you see here, to get more of that foam off and just have most of the liquid. Once you have this, cover it, put it in the refrigerator until you need it. Next, we are going to pre-cook the arborio rice, and we're basically making a risotto, if you couldn't tell. But when you're making risotto, you want to make sure that everything stays hot or at least warm. So you don't necessarily shock the rice as you're cooking it by adding cold liquid into a hot dish. Because if you do that, you're going to not have a very good risotto. It starts off with a little bit of avocado oil, canola oil, or vegetable oil, whatever you'd like, and butter. Once the butter's melted, add in your brunoise onion and your brunoise garlic. You'll cook this until the onion is slightly translucent. Now that your onions are translucent, let's add in the rice. And we're going to gently toast or cook this. And you don't want any color on it. Basically, you just want to toast it enough to extract some of the nice ricey, toasty flavors that you're going to get. After roughly 6 to 7 minutes, go ahead and slowly start to add your seasoned water into the rice and constantly stir. You could also use chicken stock or vegetable stock if you'd like, but the recipe calls for water, and so that's what I used. And you're not going to add all the water at once. You just want to go a little bit of water at a time while constantly stirring. All in all, this takes about 20 to 25 minutes, and you want to just constantly stir, stir, stir. What this does is it helps bring out the starch in the rice, which is going to leave you with a very creamy, delicious risotto rice. Now we're almost there, not quite, but we're barely cooking this, so it's half past that slightly al dente state. Once you have it to where you want it, get a sheet tray and you're going to spread the rice out so it cools down pretty fast. You could store it in the fridge, or you could leave it out if you're going to be enjoying this very soon. But I waited a couple hours to make this, so what I did is cooled it on a sheet tray, put it in the fridge with a little bit of plastic wrap over the top. And now we're gonna make the cilantro oil, which gets drizzled over the top. And for this, you mainly want just the leaves and very little stem, and about a quarter cup of either canola, avocado, or vegetable oil. Blend it really quick. I didn't use my big Vitamix because it's such a tiny amount. And there you go. Next step is to strain it. I'll let this sit, and while it sits and does its thing, we can start cooking our eggs. Now, I'm using a circulator here, and what this does is circulates the water, and it keeps it a constant temperature. The temperature that we're going for here is 62.5 degrees Celsius, which is around 144 degrees, 145 degrees Fahrenheit. If you don't have a circulator, feel free to just poach an egg and you'll be perfectly fine. But the next step is cooking and plating the final dish. To start, melt some butter and add in your rice. Once all of your rice is in, add in your manchego cheese. The recipe in the book actually calls for a bola de ocosingo cheese, which is a cheese from Chiapas that you can't necessarily get in the US. And it's very similar to a manchego, so I decided to use a young manchego. It's also kind of closely related to like a Gouda or Hola, but again, manchego was the direction I went with this. Once that's in, add in your poblano or poached chile liquid and slowly start warming your rice back up, making sure that the cheese is melted and fully incorporated. You might have to add a little bit more water or chicken stock, or if you have extra of the liquid from the pastillas, you could use that too. That's perfectly fine. But this was looking a little dry to me, so I just added a touch more liquid and it came out really nice. Now let's get our avocados ready. You want 1/4 avocado for 1 plate. And since I'm making 2, I'm using half of an avocado. Just look how beautiful this one is. Dice it up, and we're gonna add this to our rice and mix it in. I always use a little trivet, especially if I'm putting this on top of my cutting board, because I just feel it's disgusting to have a pot or a pan on a cutting board. That's just, ingrained in me from working in restaurant kitchens. Once your avocado is nice and mixed in, it's pretty much time to start plating. One thing I forgot to mention is the slow cooked eggs are cooking for about 1 hour and 20 minutes. And this is how they come out. Well, they're not supposed to come out broken. I probably tapped it a little bit too hard. But the cook on it looks fantastic. I just had some brute strength that I used while opening up the first one. So let's try this again, but let's do it over our actual plate. First, we are going to scoop our rice into the bottom of our bowl. I'm making a little well to rest my egg in once I crack it. This way it doesn't slide, and if I do break it, which I'm not going to, it stays in that little nest of rice. See, just look how beautiful that egg looks. It's just so nice. Drizzle it with a little bit of your cilantro oil. Then grate as much cheese as you'd like over the top of this. I went pretty heavy because I'm a huge fan of Manchego cheese, so feel free to just pile it on. And if you get big chunks, throw those in there too. It's not going to hurt. Then on with your onion rings, your scallions, then your serrano chilies. If you like spicier dishes, feel free to add more on there. But again, this is a recreation of Quintonil's dish, and you know, I'm doing what I can with the ingredients that I'm able to get here. This is just a little bit of cilantro leaf. Shockingly, one thing I couldn't find were radish sprouts, so I left those off. And I'm just using some marigolds here for some color. And squash blossoms finish the dish. And that's it. There you have it. If you've enjoyed watching me make this recipe, give it a like, comment, subscribe, and let me know if there's another recipe from the cookbook that you'd like to see. I'm going to be doing about 4 or 5 more recipes from here, so I hope you tune in and I hope you enjoy it. Recreate this dish and let me know what you think. Isn't it beautiful? Look at it. Well, here it is, my creamy green rice with a perfect egg. Beautiful squash blossoms, avocado, serrano. Let's try it out. God damn. That is phenomenal. It's not the traditional cheese that's used in the dish. I used a Manchego instead because that's similar in flavor. But wow, I mean, we can look at the egg. This is fantastic. Something I will definitely make again. And if I can get my hands on this Chiapa style cheese, I'm sure it'll be even better. I can see why this is one of the best restaurants in Mexico City. So good and super easy.